13-year-old Kathy Brown dragged a ping pong table across her small backyard in Clinton, Iowa. She carefully pulled it into place end to end with another ping pong table standing a few feet from the back patio. Then she threw several old blankets, sheets, and a tablecloth across the table so they hung over the sides, touching the ground and completely enclosing the crawl space beneath. It was August 2nd, 1985, a cool, clear summer evening, and Kathy was building a tent. She had just called her friend, Linda Thompson, to come over for a sleepover. Linda arrived at 9 o'clock that night with her sleeping bag and pillow. She and Kathy brought out to the makeshift tent everything they needed for a backyard campout: their sleeping bags, pillows, a flashlight, an electronic game called Simon, a Tupperware container of cookies, two plastic cups, and some cola. The two girls spread out their sleeping bags, ate some cookies, played Simon a little, and talked a lot, mostly about starting the eighth grade. They fell asleep sometime between 10:30 and 11 p.m. In the middle of the night, Kathy, who was only half asleep, saw a hand pull back one of the blankets draped over the tables. A man she at first assumed was her father crawled into the tent, carrying a small white bag, which he placed on the ground. Kathy, Kathy first realized the man was not her father when he grabbed her by the throat. The intruder knelt between Kathy and Linda and took Linda by the throat too. He told the girls, "If you scream, I'll knock you out." They didn't scream. The intruder said, "I thought there would only be one of you." He asked them how old they were, and they replied 13. The man sat back and ordered Kathy and Linda out of their sleeping bags. He told them to take off all of their clothes except their underwear at first. The girls complied. Kathy removed her sweatpants and sweatshirt, Linda her sweatshirt and shorts. The man again warned them not to scream. He said, "I won't kill you, but I will hurt you." The man ordered the girls to lie back down. He kissed them and fondled them. um, "If you scream," he said, putting his hands to their breasts, "that's how fast I can react." Later, the men ordered the girls to remove their underwear and lie back down. He put their underwear in the white bag and continued to kiss and fondle the girls. This sexual assault would go on for a while. The assault lasted for close to an hour and a half. Neither Kathy nor Linda said a word except to answer very softly yes or no to the assailant's questions. Sometimes Linda would say, "Sir." Once or twice the man lifted the side of the tent to see if anyone nearby was nearby, and the girls could tell that it was starting to get light. At one point during the assault, the man urinated into a plastic cup. The man ordered the girls to lie naked on their stomach atop their sleeping bags. He lay down between them and began discussing how he would get away. He thought out loud about getting some rope and tying them up. He continued to stroke the girls and tell them how sweet they were. He warned them if they told anyone that they would go through a terrible ordeal with a lot of people, including the police. Finally, the intruder tied Kathy's arms behind her back with her sweatshirt and did the same to Linda. He gathered up the white bag with the girls' panties in it, the black and red flashlight that Kathy had brought to the tent, the yellow plastic cup with a white interior that he had urinated in. Then he leaned over to the girls, who were trembling, bound and naked on the bedding, and told them not to move because he would be back in 2 minutes. Kathy and Linda lay still for 15 to 20 minutes, fearing the man would come back. When he did not reappear, they freed themselves and pulled back the blankets covering the tent. It was light by now, 6 a.m. They went into their house where Kathy's parents were just waking up. Clinton is in the middle of the eastern border of Iowa, right on the Mississippi River. The townspeople are mostly blue-collar workers and farmers, hit hard by the agricultural depression of the 70s and 80s. There are 4 elementary schools, 1 high school, and a center of town. The Browns' home is in the northernmost edge of town. The neighborhood is literally a swatch of suburbia cut into a cornfield. The Brown Street, like others in the area, roll along with new ranch and split-level houses on either side, then comes up short where the fields begin. The neighborhood is made up of mostly young, middle-income families like the Browns and the Thompsons. At 7 a.m., police officer Lyle Smith arrived at the Browns' residence to secure the area. He photographed the crime scene, marked items for evidence, and along with some of the Browns' neighbors began searching the area for clues. Police officer Larry Speakman went to the hospital to interview Kathy and Linda. The girls described the man of medium height or medium to tall. They said he had goldish brown hair with a skinny braided ponytail, maybe a few inches long, sticking out the back of his head. They remembered either dark blue pants or shorts, athletic type, with white piping down the sides. Neither could remember if the man wore any shirt or shoes. Kathy thought he wore a strange dark green makeup made of sock like material knotted together with holes for the eyes, nose, and mouth. She thought the man had white makeup slashed on the lower part of his face under the mask. Linda did not remember any mask, but described the same odd white makeup. Both girls said the man wore his watch in a peculiar manner, way up on the forearm, almost to the elbow, with a watch face turned in. Kathy said the watch had numbers on it and was upside down, traditional numbers, like a clock numbers. Kathy said the watch face, and both Kathy and Linda heard a motorcycle start up and roar off after the man left the tent. It soon became apparent, though, that neither Kathy nor Linda could describe the assailant's features. It had been dark in the tent, and the girls were terrified. The man had warned them not to look at his face, and if they did look up, he shined the flashlight into their eyes. Neither of the girls would ever be able to identify the man to police. Mr. Brown, however, was convinced that he knew who the assailant was. He told police to question John Avery Coy, the man who had taken up residence next door in the Bingham house. Karen Bingham was a teacher at a local community college and had recently been divorced. Her young son had moved out with his father, and Kathy and her 11-year-old daughter kept the house. Karen met John Coy, 34 years old, in January while he was taking courses at a community college. He moved in with Karen and her daughter in April, and as far as anyone in the neighborhood was concerned, John Avery Coy was an able-bodied man without a job, who played music too loud and too late at night and was rumored to have an alcohol problem. He had made no friends on the block. Brown had seen Coy in a lounge chair in the Bingham backyard the day before. The Browns' backyard has a tall wooden fence along the back end of the yard and up the far side. But in between the Browns' yard and the Bingham yard, there is a chain link fence instead. Because of the house and the wooden fence, the makeshift tent could not have been visible from the street or even from the house directly behind the Browns. According to Brown, however, John Coy had a clear view of the backyard through the chain link fence, and on August 2nd, he watched while Kathy built her tent. Around 10 a.m., the morning after the crime, Brown saw Coy heading down the street with what appeared to be a suitcase. Brown called out to Officer Speakman, who was in the backyard. Speakman radioed for assistance and a routine computer check on John Avery Coy. They caught up with Coy a few blocks away. Coy was carrying a knapsack and a black, hard plastic case that turned out to contain a videocassette recorder and videotapes that he was returning to the store. He stood a broad 6 foot 3 inches tall. He had a round, pudgy, clean-shaven face and light brown hair cut short. But he was wearing his watch in a peculiar manner, way up on the forearm, almost to the elbow, with the watch face turned in. Coy told Speakman that he had been asleep all night and knew nothing of the crime. While they were talking, the computer check turned up an outstanding warrant on Coy for Cedar Rapids for operating a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol. Coy was arrested on the outstanding traffic warrant, but there was not enough evidence to arrest him in connection to the assault. When Kathy's father heard the news, he started across the lawn towards the Bingham home. I felt I knew who the guilty one was, said Brown, so I was going to look for some evidence. A neighbor followed Brown because he feared there would be trouble. The two knocked on the Bingham's door. When they did not receive an answer, they walked through an unlocked back door into the downstairs of the Bingham split-level home. They looked through every room, the living room, the den, the laundry room, the bathrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Finally, in the kitchen, by the back door, they saw a yellow plastic cup with a white interior, slightly torn, lying atop the trash. The cup had a putrid smell. Brown immediately told Officer Speakman, who obtained a search warrant for the Bingham home. There, the police found the cup in the kitchen trash, a flashlight and batteries similar to the one taken from the tent on a shelf in the garage, and a white cloth bag in the backyard. They arrested John Coy on 2 counts of lascivious acts with a child. The trial began on November 4th, 1985. The first 2 witnesses were Linda Thompson and Kathy Brown. Excuse me. Coy, who sat in the counselor's table, kitty corner to the witness box. The girls entered through the back door of the courtroom, and Linda testified first. She answered, "A guy came into our tent and grabbed their throats. Question, did he say anything? Answer: don't scream. Question: anything else? He was surprised that there was two of us. What did he say in regard to that? He goes: I thought there'd only be one of you. And then what happened? He told us to get out of our sleeping bags. Did you do that? Yes. Did you take off all of your clothes? No, not at first, not our underwear. How come? Because he told us not to. And then what happened? He started to feel us. Where did he touch you? Our breasts and our vaginas. Did he say anything during this time? I don't remember. And so it went for several hours. Each girl sat nervously in the witness chair, answering in 3 or 4 word sentences, as Gary Rolfe, who was a prosecutor, guided them through the details of the attack. The girls spoke softly, but through the microphone their voices filled the courtroom. They looked at their hands or at Rolfe. Jack Wolf, who was the defense attorney, cross-examined the girls, and his cross-examination was brief. He did not try to deny the assault took place, nor did he try to discredit the girls' account. Instead, he emphasized that neither girl could identify John Coy as the assailant. After the girls were done testifying, the trial went on for another 2.5 days. One expert for the prosecution testified that 3 fingerprints on the flashlight found in the Bingham garage were positively identified as Coy's. He said that no fingerprints could be identified on the batteries or cup. Another expert witness testified that the dried liquid in the cup found in the Bingham home was, in fact, urine. He also testified that he had analyzed several hairs taken from the bedding in the tent and 1 hair taken from Linda's shorts. 3 of the hairs from the bedding were pubic hairs similar to that of John Coy and dissimilar to that of the girls. The hair from Linda's shorts was a head hair that was similar to Coy but dissimilar to the girls. On a side note, this was in 1985, so there was not any DNA evidence at this point. We did not have that technology. Upon cross-examination, however, the expert testified that unlike fingerprints, hairs could not positively be identified as belonging to a specific person. He could say positively if a hair did not belong to an individual. That is, the 3 pubic hairs definitely did not come from Kathy or Linda. But the most the expert could state on the other side was that the hairs were similar to those of a particular individual. The hairs could have come from John Coy. The expert could not estimate how many other people might also have matching hairs, and he admitted he could not determine whether the hairs were from a man or from a woman. Finally, the expert testified upon cross-examination that the hairs found to be dissimilar from Coy's were not tested against Kathy or Linda. Therefore, no one could say whether those hairs came from the girls or yet another unknown individual. Kathy's father, Mr. Brown, took the stand next. He testified that on August 2nd, he gave his daughters a flashlight to take into the tent. He described it as black with a red top, a special industrial flashlight issued to him at work. Mr. Brown also testified that before giving the flashlight to Kathy, he took out the old blue batteries and put in 2 new red industrial D-cell batteries. Gary Rolfe held up the black and red industrial flashlight and the 2 red industrial batteries found in the Bingham garage. Brown said that they were just like his own. He could not, however, state positively that they were, in fact, the flashlight and batteries from the tent. Officers Speakman and Smith each took the stand and recounted finding the flashlight and batteries, the yellow cup with the white interior, and the white bag. Upon cross-examination, the officers admitted that a thorough search of the Bingham house and the surrounding areas never turned up any blue pants or shorts with white piping, any green mask or mask-like material, any white makeup, or the girls' panties, nor did they find any sign of a motorcycle. The defense presented 3 witnesses. A friend of Coy's testified that during the time that she had known him, which included the time of the crime, Coy's hair had never been anywhere near long enough for a ponytail. She said she had never known Coy to own or to ride a motorcycle. Finally, she testified that John Coy always wore a digital watch. Kathy had testified that the assailant's watch, worn in a peculiar manner, had a traditional round watch face with numbers. Karen Bingham took the stand next. Excuse me. She testified that on the night of August 2nd, she was in New York with her 2 children, visiting her parents. Coy was to fly out the next day, the day of his arrest, to meet Karen and her family and discuss wedding plans. They were then going to go to Pennsylvania so Karen could meet Coy's parents. Coy, of course, never showed up. Karen also testified that Coy had never worn a ponytail, never owned or rode a motorcycle, and always wore a digital watch. She was quite sure of the watch because shortly before the crime, sometime in July, Karen had bought Coy a new watch. She was certain she had bought the same kind of Kmart digital watch that he always wore. The last witness for the defense was John Coy. Dressed in a jacket and tie, Coy sat composed on the witness chair and answered his lawyer's question in a calm, clear voice. Coy said he had been sitting in the Bingham backyard in the late afternoon of August 2nd. He said he noticed something going on in the Browns' backyard, but he didn't really pay attention and did not recall seeing Kathy there. In answer to the question, did you in any way molest or have contact with the two 13-year-old girls that evening? Coy answered, no, sir, I did not. Coy testified that he went to sleep about 10 o'clock that night and awoke at about 9 the next morning. He said he went outside to collect the mail and noticed some debris in the driveway. Question: could you explain to the jury what it was that you saw in the driveway? Answer: a plastic cup that has been shown as evidence here was in my driveway. And also there was a flashlight on the corner of the driveway, just outside the garage door. Question: was there any garbage that you picked up when you were out there? Answer: it was like a cupcake wrapper, a plastic wrapper. There was something else, but I don't recall if it was a stick or what it was, but something else that I did pick up. Do you recall what you did with that junk? The flashlight was just outside the garage door, as I stated, and there were tools on the floor not 3 feet away that were inside the garage. It appeared that the flashlight had been kicked out, and I wondered if maybe the batteries had corroded. I didn't know how long it had been out there. I took the top off the flashlight and removed the batteries. I set the flashlight on the shelf just inside the door, and to the best of my knowledge, I thought I threw the cup in the garbage there too, but apparently I had taken the stuff upstairs and threw it in the garbage in the kitchen. Did you know whose flashlight it was? I suspected it was Karen's. I knew that it wasn't mine. Was it on the lawn, or was it somewhat obscured? It wasn't obscured. There was a tree in the corner of the garage. It was partially under the tree in plain sight. Were you able to determine how it ended up getting there? I really didn't think about it at the time. I just picked it up. The state then recalled Officer Smith to the stand. Smith testified that he and several others thoroughly searched the area around the Brown and Bingham house between 8 and 10 a.m. He said if there had been a flashlight on the lawn or a plastic cup in the driveway, he certainly would have noticed it. He also said there was no wind blowing that morning.